So our first one is remember. We've forgotten who we are and who created us, so we need to remember who we are and who created us. Now we see that darkness is simply just our own imaginings, and the light is there for us to look upon. And number 3, Christ's vision changes darkness into light. Oh, I'm sorry, that's what we were working on, sorry. Christ's vision, allow Christ's vision to come into our minds, take the darkness or the thoughts of the past, the judgments and so forth, and turn those into light, for fear must disappear when love has gone. The Course says this all the time. You know, what is not love is simply fear and nothing else, and yet what is all-encompassing can really have no opposite to it. So even though it appears that fear or the past or darkness has some power to us, it has no power to us. It has no power over us when faced with love, because love is all-encompassing. And so that's what this is saying. It can change darkness into light because fear will always disappear in the face of love. And that's what we need to keep remembering. Where love is, and that is wherever you are, right? Wherever we are, love is. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, the truth is. Even if we have almost, you know, there's a great line in the Course that tells us that we can paralyze love almost to nothing within us. Have you ever felt just like dry bone that you've got nothing in you? Got nothing. But the fact is, it may seem like there's nothing, but there's always life. There is always love. It was interesting because the mother of the little kids, 6 and 8-year-old, who had the little butterfly habitat, she was saying to me, she says, you know, we watch these caterpillars and they almost look like they're dead, but we know they're not, because they go into that larva stage and then they make a chrysalis and then they become a butterfly, but they look like they're dead. Have you ever felt like you're just dead? Like nothing can happen here, no life is possible here, no hope is possible, no light, no nothing. But it transforms, because wherever you are, love is. You know, and even in somebody who doesn't look like any light is anymore, wherever they are, love is. I go back to George Wallace. Remember George Wallace? God, what a racist. You know, and then he was shot. They tried to assassinate him. And remember, after that shooting where he was debilitated and I think was in a wheelchair the rest of his life, he became an advocate for civil rights. You know, that guy, I remember seeing those speeches of him, such a hateful individual. And what an incredible transformation. Now, I'm not saying you got to go through get shot and put in a wheelchair or anything, but what I'm saying is, to me, that always has been a remarkable remembrance in my mind, that what seemed like such darkness and ignorance was reborn. So that same truth is available for any of us, those that we may look at in the world that are going through this, and ourselves as well, when we feel there is no possibility. Of course there is, because wherever you are, love is. And that's what this is saying. Where darkness is, we look upon the light, for fear will disappear when love comes. When love has come, and love comes wherever you are present. Love comes. So that's the other thing we need to remember. So remembering who we are, remembering that darkness is our own imagining, remembering that Christ's vision can transform that darkness into light, because love is always present. And then the fourth one is simply this: let me forgive your holy world today, that I may look upon its holiness and understand it but reflects my own. What I want to say about that one, and I think this is the most important thing to remember, we've got all this in our minds, who we are, that darkness is our own imagining, that Christ's vision can change darkness into light because of the power of love that abides within us. And then let me forgive your holy world. Let forgiveness rest, is what the Course would always say. Allow it to happen. So these things that we may need to refocus our attention. And the final one is always the gift that is given us. Let it rest. Let it rest. It's working. It's working. It's like those little, I remember when Jeffrey was little and he'd come home with a little a Dixie cup of soil and a seed down in the bottom. And he'd always name it. You know, it was always, we gave it a name. It was Sid the seed. I always remember every seed that he ever brought home was Sid, because it just has a nice alliteration, Sid the seed. So it was a seed, and you couldn't, and the idea was, we would talk about it. I said, you know, that thing is growing even though you can't see it growing, right? When you let forgiveness rest, what it's telling us is it's working, even if you can't see it. And then at some point in time, when you least expect it, you see that little thing grow, right? You see that little plant come out of that ground, and you didn't realize all the time it was doing its work down in there. So when it says let forgiveness rest, we realize that's not a passive thing, that's a very active thing. That thing is growing even when you don't know it's growing, and it's coming out. And then it comes out into something beautiful for us. So when we do the work, when we remember, when we switch our perceptions, when we allow our minds to be healed, and then when we allow this forgiveness to rest, that I may look upon the world's holiness and understand it but reflects my own, that's a stepping back and not trying to rush ahead of truth, which the Course says we do so much of the time, you know, and allowing it to be. So those are the 4 steps in there that I think are really important. And you know, even our thought in the prayer ministry this month is a good one to remember. This is a great affirmation when you're dealing with challenging situations, to say, where darkness was, I look upon the light. But also the thought in the prayer ministry, which is, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. You know, and we were talking about, we go through a lot of painful circumstances, is to affirm into this circumstance, because all these steps are in this. I'm going to affirm joy in the face of pain, where, you know, I choose the joy of God. I choose God's joy instead of the painful circumstances that I seem to be facing. What it is you're not denying them, you're looking clearly at them and saying, that's not God's will for me. I know God's will for me is joy, even in the face of this. I know that God's will for me is light, even in what seems to be the darkness. And even if it seems like nothing is growing there, nothing is working there, it is. We have to know that, because wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, love is. And that's the affirmation that this is saying. So it says, our love awaits us as we go to the awareness of God, as we go to love, and walks beside us, showing us the way. God, Christ, the Holy Spirit, whatever word you want to use, fails in nothing. He is the end we seek. Love is the end we seek. He is the end we seek, and He the means by which we go to Him. He the means. He is there to help us remember who we are, so that we might know that we are one with Him, that we were created by Him and like Him. So that's what this is all about. Where darkness was, I look upon the light.